Hi, this is my lesson plan for class EED 350, and it took me a while to think about what to do for this lesson, but I'm just going to go with something that I'm really familiar with and something that I know really well, and that is beading. So I am a self-taught beader. I've always wanted to know, I've always wanted beadwork, and I could never afford the prices. And I understand the prices now comparing to, how much detail and planning go into beading, along with the price of the supplies and how much time consuming it is. So to start off, give you the rundown on the supplies. So first supply is beading thread, and this is just a size D beading thread. This is what I prefer to use. It's a little on the thick side, but it also works really well with cut beads where it doesn't fray so quickly. So size D beading. This is my beading scissors. It's a small compact in case I need to travel with it. It folds down. You don't have to use this kind. You can use any kind of scissors, but this is what I use. And the type of needles that I'm using today are size 11 shorts, or sharps they call them. And I get a lot of my supplies online, since there really isn't anything in this area that you can buy, where you can buy supplies. There's maybe one or two stores. So I tend to order my supplies online because there's more of a selection. So the first thing we do is get your materials and the design. That's the big thing. The best thing to do is be prepared with everything before you even start beading, so that way there is no interruption, especially when you get into that mode where you want to bead and you want to get this project done and you're derailed by, some little minor detail. So what I've learned is to bead on graph paper, and not a lot of people do this, but I like to do it because it keeps the design uniform and it keeps it even. So what I've done is this is a design for a purse that I'm doing right now for an order. And what I've done is I've drawn out the designs on the graph paper. And what I did is I colored them in with a colored pencil, so I know which color they're going to go, which, where everything's going to be and how uniform they will be. So that's what I use. And the type of beads that I'm using for this project are 3-cut beads. And these ones are a little on the pricey end, but they also sparkle. And that was one thing that the person that ordered this wanted, was something really flashy and sparkly. So I went with the 3-cut beads. If you see them, they got a little bit of a facet to them. When the light catches them, they sparkle a little bit. So that's what I'm using. And as you can see that I've started this project already just a little bit. So what I do is it's called a flat stitch. So what the flat stitch consists of is going so many beads and then tacking it down. So right now I usually go about 7 beads and then I tack it down. It gives it more of a lazy stitch feel to it, but it's still tight. So that's what I'm going to do right now, is lay down 7 beads and then show you how I do the flat stitch. So, and there's different methods of this. This is, like I said, I taught myself how to bead. It was a lot of trial and error, and a lot of it is just going and you learn. And that's pretty much with anything, So I have my beads and I am counting here now. So what I've done now is I've done the blue, one part of the blue here, and I'm going to pull it through and lay it down. And then what I usually do is I come through maybe halfway and come through, and then come through that middle bead and the halfway point and start again. So that way when you do, start your next color or your next part of that line, there is that tack there where, there's enough tension to where it keeps the bead uniform and it keeps it in a straight line. So it's really hard for me to bead with my glasses on because I usually take my glasses off when I bead. That's the joys of having bifocals. So went through that middle line and I tacked down the blue. So the next thing is the red. So when it does, another thing I can show you is another method that I do is I will go all the way up to the end of the line to where the red is needed, or where the red is shaded in the graph paper, and then come back and tack it down. So that's kind of like the 2-needle method, but you're not using 2 needles. When you do big areas, that's usually what I do, is I will do it that way. That way you can cover more area in a little bit of amount of time. And lately I haven't had a lot of time to bead, especially having a 23-month-old in the house. So, but see, so I laid it. Now what I have to do is I have to tack it down. So I will come through right where the bead ends. And one thing you got to remember is that with a project, it's better to have gaps than to have it look shoved together, or I guess crowded. That's a better term for it, is to have it crowded. So that's one thing that I've learned with all the years that I've been beading, is it's better to have a gap, just a maybe little space of a gap, rather than to have your beads not lay down flat and look all crowded together. So what I'm doing right now is I am, about every 3rd or 4th bead, I'm coming back and I'm tacking it down. And coming back all the way down to my starting point. So once I get back to that starting point, then I'll start another line. So that's how I do the beading. You know, that's how I over years and time of trial and error, and you know, looking at other people's styles and studying styles, like old styles of beadwork, that's the method that I've used. So you can see that, you know, it's tacked it down, it's laying flat, and the next thing to do is just continue on with one more row of red. You know, it looks like my blue is completed for that design, so I just go back down now and start right here and start on another row of red. So that, in a nutshell, is how I bead, and I hope you've learned a little bit about beading from this video. Have a good day.